Okay, we are going to make the best chocolate cake. This cake is so moist and so delicious. It's by far the favorite cake I've ever made. And it's off the back of your Hershey's cocoa can. Who would have thought it? So on the back of your can, it has the instructions of the chocolate cake that you're going to make. The ingredients are right here. We got the pan to spray it, we got the sugar, the cocoa, the salt, the eggs, baking powder, baking soda, and our vegetable oil. This is everything that we're going to be using to make this cake today. And I'm going to show you one of my tips that I do in order to make the chocolate cake even a little bit more moist. It's already super moist, but we have a little trick that we're going to be able to show you to make it even more moist. Best chocolate cake in the whole wide world. You're going to love it. Okay, we're going to add 1 3/4 cup of flour. We're going to add 2 cups of sugar. We're going to sift that through there. Get it all blended. It also is going to... Alright, we got the flour and sugar. We're going to add the cocoa, which is 3/4 cup of cocoa. We have our baking soda. This is 1.5 teaspoons. Oops, didn't all come out there. And we have our baking powder. Now we're going to go ahead and start sifting that all the way through. This will also help your cake be a little bit fluffier. Getting all those ingredients blended together. And then whatever's left you can just push through. There we go. Now, we are going to add our liquids. Alright, before we add our liquids, I'm going to sprinkle the salt all the way in there. There we go. I'm going to give it a good stir. Get that all blended really well. We're going to add our milk. We're going to add our oil. Here's our eggs. I just crack my egg on the side and drop it in there. Now I'm going to take my beater and I am going to beat it slowly just to start getting everything mixed in there, get those eggs beat up. Now the one thing this cake calls for, which I've never added into a cake before, is a cup of hot boiling water. I think that may be the difference in this Hershey's cake versus all other chocolate cakes. But we have not, we're going to add that cup of hot boiling water in just a second. I'm going to get these blended together first. I'm going to turn that off and I'm going to get my cup of boiling hot water ready. Alright, vanilla. I cannot believe I almost forgot the vanilla. It calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So I'm going to add that in there. Blend it up. Now I'm going to slowly add my hot water. This is going to make the batter really runny and you're going to think, oh my gosh, cake batter is not supposed to do this running. But it will be absolutely fine. Because most box cakes that you make, the batter is a lot thicker. This batter is not going to be thick. So I added my Watkins vanilla and my Hershey's cocoa. I got everything blended. It's, like I said, it looks runny and you're thinking, oh my gosh. Now I've already sprayed my pans, floured them, and then I put a piece of parchment paper at the very bottom of them. So now We're going to divide this as evenly as we can into both pans. About half there and half here. Scraping the bottom of this bowl, making sure I get all that goodness in there. Looks like this one needs a little, dividing these I've always found a little difficult. I usually always have one that's a little thicker than the other, but it's never hurt the flavor. I've already got my oven preheated to 350, so I am going to put these in the oven and let them cook for about 30 to 35 minutes. And there's my little Roxy. She is my assistant cook. She's stretching out there and observing my hard work. Alright, I just took these out of the oven. I'm going to take a toothpick and I'm going to take it right down the center and pull it out nice and clean. These are going to be perfectly done. I'm going to let these cool. This is where my little trick comes in. I let these cool for about 15 minutes until the bottoms of them aren't super hot. I'm going to cover them with aluminum foil and I'm going to put them in the freezer. By covering them with aluminum foil and putting them in the freezer, it's going to lock in that moisture to that cake. And this is what helps it even to be more super moist. Okay, so while the cakes are in the freezer freezing, I'm going to make the peanut butter icing. I got my powdered sugar. You can see everything's from Kroger. That's obviously the store I go to do my shopping. We're going to do 4 sticks of butter, a teaspoon of vanilla. It's going to be 4 cups of powdered sugar, a cup of peanut butter. I usually add, and this is creamy peanut butter, and we always use Jif, it's our favorite. So I usually do like a cup and a little bit. It's kind of a heaping cup. And then you can use heavy whipping cream or just milk. So today we're going to be using milk. The first thing we're going to do is add 4 sticks of softened butter. You want your butter to be soft. We're going to dump it in there, scrape the bowl. There we go. Now I'm going to put in the whisk, and one thing I've learned is whip the butter. Whip it good. So we're going to whip this butter for probably about 3 to 5 minutes until it's really light and fluffy. Lock that in, and here we go. Now that it's whipped for a little bit, I'm going to scrape it out of the middle here. Get all that out. Well, as much as you can. Now I'm scraping the sides of the bowl, bringing that down into the middle. Getting it to the bottom, scraping off my spoon here. And then I'm going to put it down and continue whipping it. Alright, now the butter is well whipped. Now I'm going to add my peanut butter. Get that all in there. Like I said, I added a heaping cup of peanut butter. I like ours to be just a little more peanut buttery. Alright, now I'm going to put this down and I'm going to continue whipping the two together until they're well blended. Alright, I blended it. I'm going to scrape the sides again, bring it all to the center. So you can see we're getting a little butter and peanut butter that's not blended well. So bring that to the center. Maybe give it a flip or two. Alright, and then I'm going to continue whipping it. Okay, now I'm going to add 1 cup of powdered sugar at a time. So I'm going to put 1 in, and I'm going to start the beater on low, because if you turn it up high, you're going to have powdered sugar flying everywhere. So I'm going to start that down low. I'm going to go ahead and add my teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. And then we're gonna slowly speed that up. When I add my next cup of powdered sugar, I'm gonna scrape the sides. I'll be scraping the sides each time I put in a cup of powdered sugar. All right, now I'm going to, you can see I got that whipped really good. See how stiff it is? Now you can determine how stiff you want it. It calls for 3 tablespoons of milk, but I don't know that I'm gonna add all 3 tablespoons. I'm just gonna add 1 at a time, beat it until I get the thickness I want it to be. So this is my icing, my peanut butter icing. I think that's a really good thickness. I only added about 2 tablespoons of milk, but again, it just depends on how thick you want your icing. This has nice peaks, so if I go down and pull it up, it's got a pretty good stiff peak there. So I think it's a good texture that I'm going to go ahead and keep it just like that. So I'm going to go pull my cakes out of the freezer and I'm going to ice them for you. All right, I got my cakes out of the freezer. Let's take these off. Ah, very nice. Now I'm going to take off the other one. And you can leave these in the freezer up to an hour or more. Mine are not completely cold. I usually leave them in there a little bit longer than what I did today. Now for the icing, I got the icing made here. I got me a tip and a piping bag. And what I'll do is I'll put this in a cup, flip this out, and then that just makes it easier to fill this with icing. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of icing. This is not one of those fancy spinny things. I wish I had one of those spinny things, but I don't. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of icing there. It's just to help the cake from moving around. Gonna flip this upside down. Hope that pops out today. All right, got that off. Now I'm just gonna peel back my parchment paper, put that in there. Now this is just to make the icing a little bit more even. So we're just gonna pipe right there, go all the way around the cake. There. Now, I'm going to take my spatula spreader and I'm just going to spread it around kind of nice and even. And since I don't have one of those handy dandy spinners, I will just slowly take it around the edges right here. Now, you can see I didn't get it to the very edge, so I'm going to need to do that. So I'm going to come back with my piping bag. And I'm going to do the very edge to get the icing all the way around. Need a little there. And I think I'll leave it like that and just put the other cake on top of it and see what that looks like. Alright, I got the second one on top. Now I'm just going to peel off my parchment paper for the second one. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Just start here. I'm just going to, and this is not, we're not making it pretty yet. We're just trying to get a thin layer of icing all the way around it. And then we'll put it in the refrigerator for the icing to get stiff. And then we'll put another layer of icing on it to make it a little bit thicker. Here. Now icing depends on you. You can put on as much icing or as little icing as you'd like. Okay, so my swirls weren't turning out the best, so I thought I'll just do these little flowers instead. And so, cake decorator. I'm not a professional cake decorator, but it still looks cute. Alright, we're gonna cut into this and show you what it looks like. Like I said, very moist, delicious chocolate cake. Ah, look at that. Turned out awesome. Again, I hope you enjoyed this recipe and you subscribe. Enjoy your delicious peanut butter chocolate cake